All right, hey traders, TG Watkins here. It is October 27th, Thursday when I'm recording this, and I was waiting a little bit for Apple and Amazon to come out with their earnings reports, and they did. Definitely interesting reactions from them, so we'll talk about that, and then we'll start initially about the market and what's going on here. Bear with me a little bit today. I fired up a new computer today, and of course I have to get a lot of things configured, and for whatever reason my drawing tool is not really behaving with everything, but I can still use my mouse and draw that way, so my drawing won't be as crisp or accurate as it normally is. That being said, if we look at the SPY, we have been seeing that we've gotten direct resistance here at the daily 50. There's also been a bit of a gap here between price and the 8 EMA and here on the hourly chart. So we've been expecting this to pull back from there, and that's good. We had a quick little trade from basically here to about here, and then we got out, and now we're waiting for the pullback. Now, I have been looking for something about this area, which will be about the daily 21. And with the drop of Amazon and then Apple at the time, Apple's rebounded, but we have the market roughly around there. So very curious to see how this opens tomorrow, Friday, and if that is going to be bullish. Like, is this going to be a buyable dip or is this worse? So that's kind of the tough thing to be figuring out right now, mostly because, it's pretty bad out there what's happening about these major companies. Now, those could go down while other areas could go up. So, there could be a sector rotation going on. Money has to go someplace. And we're trying to figure out how that might be balancing out with the market itself. I'm not totally bearish on the market yet. I am wondering if we can get a little bit over the daily 50, but I don't have any positions right now with the market itself. And we're trying to see if this dip, which I have expected and I guided down to, if there's something we can do with that. So that's kind of my thought of where we're going with the SPY. And then if we look at the UVXY or the VIX, there you go, kind of pull that out a little bit there. This is where we've been expecting. We've been expecting the market to continue to move down, and it has done so. We could see that with price up and the Moxie indicator down. There's your Moxie price trigger right there. And you can see that price fell off of the hourly 200 and then just careened on down. Now, of course, with the market down and Apple and Amazon down, we're getting a little bit of a spike in the UVXY, but I don't see anything yet that tells me that the UVXY is ready to go. I see potential. I see things that are setting up in a potentially a bullish way, but nothing to act on yet. So still no super clear signals here, except that we did see the UVXY fall apart, which is typically good and bullish for the market. So trying to see if that's going to be panning out in that way. VIX doesn't line up. So I like the UVXY. And then if we look at the NASDAQ, this one has definitely been very weak and even weaker. So we see that in the overnight it's going to be down even further. But you can see the NASDAQ basically could not even get to the daily 50. So it's a lot weaker. It is well below its hourly 50. So this one has been the weakest. Compare that to IWM, doing pretty well, and it got over its daily 50. It had relative strength early on because back here it was making a double bottom, and even here from previous low made a double bottom, and it started going up compared to when the SPY was making lower lows. So it's up there, relative strength, but also it's pretty darn high, so it could use a bit of a pullback or a flag as well. And then the strongest of all of them is the Dow. And look at this. Pretty amazing. You can see it's all the way up at the daily 200 and the third ATR. Very, very solid, nice, strong moves up there. But it is getting pretty overbought, very extended. You can see just a giant gap right there and up at this upper resistance. So I would expect to see this pullback or flag at some point, which means I'd see the rest of the market do the same. But yeah, it's just a little too elevated and too frothy to just buy right now. So I would wait on that. Now, if we kind of talk about, the big names, and I forgot to write down Meta, because that's another one in here. So let me write that. As far as what we're looking at, let's kind of go through them. So we had Netflix, and Netflix popped up. Okay. I think that in this case, they saw increased subscription growth. Well, fine. I think it just was an overbought situation or oversold situation, and it popped on like, good news kind of thing. At this point, it's pretty extended. Again, you can't really buy it up here. maybe there's a short, but it could be considered counter trend. If you are shorting it, it is in an uptrend, so it's overbought. But if you short it, there might be an opportunity, and so be careful about that one. But yeah, nice big move on that one. It did turn out to be a trampoline move, priced below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0, trampoline move. And then we could even see there was a bit of a level here and some positive divergence, and then got that, and then the rest of it was because of earnings. So really not much to do with it right here. It's too high to buy, and we don't know yet if the short is going to work. And then we have Tesla. And Tesla has really kind of been in a free fall. We actually shorted this a while ago, and that worked out very nicely. It was really a perfect short right here as price ran into the underside of the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below 0. So that was fantastic. And then it had earnings, and I think right there it dropped on earnings, but then kind of managed to hold, did a little bit of an undercut and rally. And then as this move up, I was at least guiding to my subscribers that, you know what, daily 21 is probably going to be a target. Now, if there's anything I can do with that, not really, because I'm a stock trader and there's just not enough meat on that bone for me to really want to work with it. But if you work with options, selling puts on the way up seem like a fairly good way of working at this. But at this point, I would be expecting another pullback, and we'll see if it can hold the next pullback. So yeah, from the daily 201, need to see a pullback, and then figure out if that is going to be bullish or bearish from there. I would venture to say that we could see it being a little bit bullish, mostly because I see that there's a large gap between price and the daily 50, kind of like there was back here. But it's going to take some time and some work in order to do that. Notice here, ran into the 21 EMA, and here again, running into the 21 EMA. So that's why I'm saying I'm expecting a pullback. I don't know if it's going to be a huge pullback like this, or if it's going to be more of a shallow pullback, kind of like that, and then we'll see. I would venture to guess that it needs to get closer to its daily 50 before rolling over to go lower, but we're going to have to see what the rest of the market does, if that can help Tesla actually get back closer to its daily 50, whether with an up move or a sideways move. Now, daily 50s are becoming a big important thing. If you look at Microsoft, it imploded on earnings, of course, so it was an earnings event, but look what it did. Ran right smack into the underside of a downtrending daily 50, Moxie indicator below 0, and up here. So this actually looked a lot like the market, but it does right now. It's very much at the daily 50, up on the hourly chart, all that kind of stuff. The market doesn't have to worry about earnings per se, but you could see it was the same structure and it imploded. Hard to see what to do with this right now. Is this going to be like a double bottom? And is this going to be something where it actually gets bought up at some point? I don't know. It's way, way, way too early to tell, but we can see so far on the 15-minute time frame, it's just been going down. So yeah, just way too early to really say too much if it's going to change direction or if it's going to keep sinking. If it is going to keep sinking, I would expect there to be a little bit of a bounce or a bear flag or something like that before the next leg down. So this is just really tough, very messy in through here. And really the only kind of stuff to do with this is basically day trade it or very short-term trade it. So there's Microsoft. Google, essentially the same thing. It looks almost identical. You can see here, ran right smack into the underside of a downtrending daily 50, Moxie indicator below 0, and that was earnings also, so that just got crunched on earnings. And then Amazon. So Amazon, let's see if I can move this around, but Amazon was up at, where was it? Yeah, 110, $111, and now it's trading at 96. So all the way down here, all the way down $96. That's huge. That is really, really huge. So big crunch. That's a huge company, and that takes a lot of effort and energy to move it down like that. So big deal. A lot of this stuff just we've been avoiding, staying away from. I mean, unless you can figure out that you want to really trade to the short side, down 20%, not too shabby. But man, these things are getting crunched. You could almost say it was daily 50, but I think the biggest takeaway that I'm trying to show you guys is that all these things kind of bounced up into the underside of a downtrending daily 50, which is exactly what the market's doing too. The S&P is right there. So that's why I'm like, it could push through it a little bit, but I'm still watching the daily 50 as overall general resistance. So Amazon and then Meta was yesterday, like, holy cow. Same thing. Look at that, all the way down there. Huge move. I think it was 23%, something like that, whatever that math was. It just got demolished. And you could just see everything's in a downtrend. could not hold anything on the hourly 50, could not even hold the 15-minute 50, and the hourly 200 was in a downtrend, and the daily 50 was in a downtrend. It couldn't even get close to the daily 50, but it just kept going lower and lower and lower and lower. And then we have Apple. Now, Apple is actually holding up. It's at about 146 in the after hours right now. So, right about there. It's actually doing pretty well. It's been all over the place. I mean, I see it went all the way down to like 135 in the overnight down, and then it went up to like 148. So yeah, it's all over the place. Now, I think Apple did a fairly good job of communicating expectations. They really said like, hey, we're going to be reducing production of iPhone 14. We've got this, we've got that, we've got all sorts of things. And they really made people know and investors know that they're going to be guiding lower, and their numbers are not going to be that great. So that might be one reason why it's holding up, is because it really communicated these numbers ahead of time very well. That's a possibility. But I just also wanted to make a note. Price moved right up into the underside of a downtrending daily 50. So on one hand, this is a perfect resistance target, and that's why I'm looking at the NASDAQ and the SPY and all this stuff running into their daily 50s. The other thing is, that's why I'm looking at Tesla, and Tesla, you can see, had a huge gap, and that's why I'm wondering if Tesla can make its way back up to the daily 50 at some point. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see how the variety of these big names actually work out and start moving. Now, if we kind of break off a little bit and we go over to USO, USO has been holding up pretty well. And this one is a couple Moxie things that I can show you in through here. So this one was not the cleanest, mostly because when I typically see a trampoline move on a time frame, I like to see it stay above the 200 SMA. So you can see this one did dip below the 200 SMA. But if we took that aside, here's the 200, and you can see it just had a little dip and then recover. It's almost like a little washout. They just wanted to mess with some people right there. But despite all that, look how much price was below the hourly 50. Notice how the Moxie indicator stayed above zero. So that's a trampoline move. Trampoline move was when price is below the 50, but the Moxie indicator is above zero. And then you could see the 8 got over the 21, and then price got over the 50, and you could see now it kind of popped up. And where that happened was on the 15-minute time frame. Check that out, right there. Right there on top of the 15-minute 50, the Moxie indicator was staying over zero. So, it looked pretty good, staying over there. You could even call these little trampoline moves, price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator stayed above zero. So, trampoline move, got that moving up. We could also say inverse head and shoulders, like that. And that might have been why this dip was here, because it needed to actually come back down to this previous low. Oil is always a little bit challenging to trade, but so far it looks like it wants to go bullish. So oil working out to the upside for now. That brings us to, say, XLE, and we've talked about this one in the past, with the inverse trampoline move here on the daily chart earlier. But then that transitioned into a double bottom with positive divergence. And then we talked about the trampoline move here on the hourly chart as well. And yeah, this one's been doing pretty well. It's been following the 15-minute 50 fairly well. Now, it might be getting a little bit ahead of itself right now. Might be getting a little bit frothy. It is up here at the previous high, and it is reaching that third ATR. So it's up there. We might even be seeing some negative divergence here. Nothing quite to act on yet. But as far as do you short it or whatever, but you might want to just realize that it's getting up to some outer extensions, and probably going to take a little bit of time to cool off and take a breather. And then XOP, this kind of brings us to, I guess, the runt of the energy sector, as it turns out. It's also kind of running in some resistance here, and it was kind of doing well. It kind of put in some distance between the price and the hourly 50, and you can see price gap between price and the daily 8. So I'm in this one, trying to see where it wants to go, willing to give it a little bit of work, and but otherwise it's still challenging. It's moving, but it's a little bit challenging. And then kind of with that, looking at the UUP, we talked about this before. In fact, let me come over here and just do daily hourly. So with the dollar, I had been talking about this. Let me get this zoomed out too, saying, hey, every time it gets too far away from the daily 50, it tends to want to come back down to the 50. Well, lo and behold, there it is. Came back down to the daily 50. So that one did work out. I wasn't really pressing the table too hard on this one. I was just like, hey, it looks like it should. And if it does, the market should go up. And lo and behold, it did. And you can see here, price was doing an inverse trampoline move. It was trying to be over the hourly 50, but the Moxie indicator was below zero. And even when we had kind of some of these bumps up here, you could see the Moxie indicator continued to trend downward. So that was another thing that was telling me, yeah, I think this is going to work. I think it's going to start breaking to the downside and giving the market a little bit of a cushion to move up. Now that it's here, now that we have price at the daily 50, even back here a little bit, we got to ask ourselves, is this now going to find some support and work its way back up? If so, that will continue to put pressure on the market, and we could see the market continue to move down. So really, this is a very turbulent time in the market. I mean, it's been this way all year, and it's not going to be, and there's no shortage of letting up on this. So really kind of keep things nimble and keep your head on a swivel. TLT, looking at bonds and interest rates and all that, we did see that there was a bit of a kind of a washout capitulation for now. That price got way outside of that third ATR off the 8 EMA, and it did rebound. Now, this is what I call the first move. There's no real confirmation of a trend change. This is just the first move off of a bounce low. And so there's, other than a quick couple-day trade, I would be looking for a pullback. And if this thing is going to go higher, I would like to see the pullback hold. If you want some quick examples, kind of like that and like that. But I would not trust these very far, because you can see that this time right there it did have a pullback, continued up a little bit, but then ultimately went lower. This one went a little bit further, but again, ultimately went lower. So just, got to be very quick and nimble. And, if you're going to trade it a long time, great, but understand context and see if it maybe wants to get closer to the daily 50 or something like that. But I don't expect this to be an easy trade if you want to go after this. I'm just trying to show how these bigger the things in the economy or with the market, dollar, interest rates, all that kind of stuff, how they look through a chart. It may not really be tradable, but it's good for you to see what's going on and how that might affect the rest of the market and what to do with it. And some of this might help drive your sentiment for the market. So just, educational purposes, trying to show you guys this stuff and see the inner workings. Doesn't mean you have to actually take trades on this. All right, well, I think that pretty much brings up everything here. You've noticed that I really don't talk about too much else because nothing else really seems to be mattering. Yes, there are some stocks going up. There are a lot of stocks going down. Otherwise, there's a ton of volatility. A lot of names are going sideways. A lot of names are chopping. And it's just a really, really difficult place to be trading out there. So trying to stick to the names that make a little bit more sense and something that we can actually work with. And so that's why I've been talking about some of the bigger ones and just showing those, because everything else is just buzzing around. Anyway, I hope that works for you guys, and we'll catch you at the next one. Thanks again.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.